Hey guys, welcome to story time again. Paranormal story time. Ooh. As requested, talk about, I actually forget whether it was requested that I talk more about my sleep paralysis or more. As requested, I am going to talk about some of my experiences with paranormal activity. I'm not going to talk about them all because this would be an extremely long video and I would have nothing to talk about afterwards. Basically, ever since I was little, I experienced a lot of paranormal activity. Please hold. Alright. So, yeah, I've always had a lot of paranormal activity around me, but most of my life, most of it has occurred in my dreams, and I don't know if that makes sense. A lot of you are probably like, dude, those are just dreams. But I think once you hear my story, you might agree that they might not just be dreams. So, anyway, when I was little, I don't know what the first paranormal experience I remember was. And again, I'm not going to get into everything. I do know that my house was haunted, and a lot of weird shit would happen quite often. And then I had this best friend who lived like kind of across the street from me, and we were like best friends, you know, since like first grade or whatever. And like after like 2 or 3 years of us being best friends, this other girl moved in down the street. She was like 2 doors down from me. And she was just weird, you know, like I got a bad vibe from her right off the bat. But my best friend like took to her right away, and they became very close, and she actually ended up choosing her over me. It was like so dramatic in like 5th grade, because me and that girl, I'll call the girl that moved in that I had a bad feeling about, I'll call her Mona, because I watch Pretty Little Liars, and Mona kind of fits her to me. And I'll call my best friend at the time will be Spencer, because that kind of fits her. Mona moved in, you know, down the street, and Spencer lived across the street from me. And yeah, they took to each other right away, but I didn't like Mona. I felt something bad about Mona. She just felt so phony, and we would always get in fights, and I just really did not like her. But Spencer like loved her. So we would go to her house, right? And her house was just so creepy. And I was only in like 4th grade at the time. I wasn't really thinking about ghosts. It was just the minute I entered her house, it was just like this heavy, evil, like people are watching, like eyes from the shadows are on you, like just horrible feeling. Like I just wanted to run out the door the minute I got in there. It was like this ball of panic and evil and horror and dread and impending doom would like form in my throat, and the air would feel like heavy and thick and like almost wavy, and it felt like you're being watched and someone's gonna like sneak up at you any time, and it just felt dark. It was like no matter how many lights you turned on in that house, it was just always so dark. Like, I don't know how else to explain it. It was just weirdly dark. Mona never mentioned, like, ghosts to us, so it wasn't like, you know, she was like, ooh, my house is haunted, and I was like, oh my god, and that was in my head after that, so I was freaked out after that. No, it was just weird. Like, I didn't know what it was, but it was just weird. And she had, like, this aunt, and her aunt was also, it was fucking weird, because her aunt was, like, mentally disabled, and she, like, couldn't talk. She just made kind of, like, weird grunts, but she would walk around, and her family would, like, make her clean for them and stuff. It was like some Addams Family shit. It was weird. It was like, this poor lady is, like, clearly mentally disabled, but she was, like, their maid almost. Like, they would make her do everything, and they would just treat her like shit, and she was just really creepy, too. Like, she just seemed so tortured to me. Like, if I were to, like, she never said a word, but just her presence, if I were to describe it in one word, just, like, the look in her eyes was just, like, tortured. Like, she just, like, was so sad, you know? And it was just really, I just didn't feel welcome there. I felt like every time I walked in there, I felt like everyone, even her mom, like, hated me and wanted me out. And I just felt really unwelcomed, and like I was being yelled at to leave the whole time I was in there. So I'd always go over, but she always had to really convince me to come over. And when I was there, I would literally be like 5 minutes max, and I would leave. It got to the point where I didn't even want to walk down her driveway. Like, I did not even want to go near her house. And I remember when she first moved in, I tried to have a sleepover with her. Me and Spencer both tried to go sleep over Mona's house. And it was just like, I remember I started crying and, like, made her mom call my mom. And even looking back on it, it's like, I feel like even her mom didn't like me for some reason. So, the next day, I believe it was, me and Spencer went to go find Mona. We went to her house. I forget why we were trying to find her. We went to her house, we went to go try to knock on her door. And actually, if I remember correctly, this happened a few times, where we'd go knock on her door, and her aunt, that was mentally disabled, we would hear her, like, crying inside. And we would think, like, something was wrong with her, so we'd knock on the door, and then she would, like, come to the door, and she just looked weird. Like, her eyes would be all wide, and then she would just close the door. And we'd be like, you know, is Mona here? And she would just shake her head. And we'd be like, is anyone here? And she would just shake her head and, like, shut the door. Like, it was weird, but I mean, I guess she was mentally disabled. But this one time in particular, we got there, we walked down her driveway, and we got there, and we knocked on the door, and no one was answering. And we heard, like, her dog barking, which wasn't like her dog. So we kept knocking on her door, and all of a sudden her dog came up to us, and we were like, we just heard her dog barking inside, so how is her dog next to us now? So we started to get a little worried, and it was just like, you could just feel like something weird was about to happen. And we kept knocking on her door, and all of a sudden, like, her door opened, and no one was there opening it. And we just kind of looked at each other, and we started to walk in the house, like, what if someone's hurt in there, was our thinking. And right when we started to walk in our house, like, her mom pulled up outside, and she started, like, yelling at us, like, what are you doing? Like, get out of here. Like, don't. And we were like, oh, well, your door was open, and your dog got out, and we were, like, really worried, and she, like, just yelled at us and didn't even care what we were saying, and was just like, yeah, don't ever do that again, you know? A few days later, I think it could have been a few weeks later, I was at her house again, and her parents weren't home, and it was, like, another one of those times where Mona and Spencer were going to have a sleepover, and, sorry, it brings back like weird deja vu almost, because I dream about her house a lot. Like, so many of my dreams are focused in her house, and it's just the feeling I got from her house was just so vivid and just so dark and just so weird. And I'm actually like, I'm even starting to feel a little like lightheaded even talking about this. Oh. Okay, I need to stop for a minute, sorry. Alright, I'm back now. Sorry about that. I don't know, like that feeling started to come back to me. I don't really know why I started to feel like that. Maybe it's just being so in the memory again. I don't know. It's such a strong feeling I used to get there. It just kind of reminded me just how strong, maybe. But, so, anyway, the other thing I experienced there, like I said, a few weeks after that, we were at her house, and Mona and Spencer were having a sleepover, and, it was like, I remember her parents' bedroom was like, do not go. In fact, we weren't really allowed to go anywhere else in the house besides the living room, kitchen, and her room. For some reason, like, all other rooms were just, like, and I guess it's normal to have them off limits, but they were, like, really strict about it. Like, yeah. So, one time, yeah, like I said, a few weeks later, see, I'm, like, getting stuck back in it again, that feeling. So we went to her house. Spencer was already there with her, and, they were in their room, and I got there, and her mom was like, oh, they're in their room, and she was making dinner. And so I went to walk to her room, and again, it's like so dark in her house. And I go to walk by her parents' bedroom, and their door is actually open, and I just see this shadow figure, like, just standing in their doorway, just like hulked over, sort of, like hulked over, like arms spread, just sort of like standing there staring at me, almost like some sort of like challenge or like guard, like sort of like an I dare you to come here type thing. And I just stood there and I just stared. I was like just in shock. I'm just staring at the shadow figure like, is that what I'm really seeing? And finally, like, you know, I snap out of it and I go and I run to her bedroom and I'm like, I'm leaving. And they're like, why? What's wrong? And I'm like, I just saw a shadow figure in her parents' bedroom, in your parents' bedroom. And instead of being like, oh my God, really? She was like, you're not supposed to be in there. You're not supposed to be in there. You know, and started like yelling at me, saying like, why would you go in there? You're not supposed to. And I was like, I didn't go in there. The door was open. And she was just like, yeah, right, Jill. Or she was just like, yeah, right, I know that's a lie. The door would never be open. They lock that door. There's no way, you know, like, I'm going to go tell my mom on you. You can't be here anymore because you went in her room and all this stuff. And I'm like, I don't want to get in trouble with your mom. Like, I just saw this creepy thing, you know, like, I'm fucking terrified. You know what I mean? So, she went and she told her mom. Her mom tells us to come out there. We go out there, and when I come out the door to her parents' bedroom, it's closed. But walking by it, I just got like this angry feeling, like, I don't know. And that's when I walked over to her mom, and her mom's like, you cannot go in there. What happened? Why did you go in there? And at this point, I'm like, I guess I should just lie and just not lie, but not tell her about what I saw. And I was just like, the door was open. She's like, no, it wasn't. That door has been closed this whole time. You can't go in there. And I was just like, I'm sorry, you know, I got confused. And But she said something like, you guys need to do everything you can for me, for Sophia. You guys need to do everything you can for Sophia, because she's the one out of all three of you, she's the one that needs the most love. She was like, she's gonna go through a really hard time. She's gonna have a really hard time in life, and because of that, she needs the most love. So no matter what she does, just give her unconditional love, because she's really gonna need it. And her mom again was like, Mona, give me a minute alone with her. So Mona left, and her mom turned to me again, and she's like, Sophia, you are going to have a really hard life, and you need all the love you can get, and you need to go home now. And for the rest of my life, I've remembered that moment, because it was just really weird, because I did have a really hard time in life, you know? Even after, like, me and Spencer and Mona drifted apart, I was the one who had the hardest time. They went into high school and became popular, and their families were wealthy, and they led great lives. I see them both on Facebook now, and their lives are, like, fucking amazing, you know? But I was made fun of for being fat. I was a loser in high school and middle school. I became homeless and had issues with my family and was homeless for several years, and just all kinds of stuff. I really went through hell, especially compared to them. They had a very cushioned life. So I just think it's so weird that she somehow, like, knew that. It was just creepy. And the way she, like, looked at me was, like, knowingly looked at me, like, she could see what I went through, but it was also, like, malicious. Like, it was sort of like she took pleasure from knowing that I was gonna have a horrible life. And, like, she was sort of telling them, like, you know what, just forget about her, because she's gonna have a horrible life. You know what I mean? Like, it was just weird. I went home, and, you know, after that we still saw each other, but that's when we kind of started drifting apart, and me and Mona fought so much all the time anyway, and that was when Spencer chose Mona over me, because me and Mona were like, you need to choose, and Spencer was like, I choose Mona, and I was just so, like, astounded, like, this girl is, like, evil, like, she's radiating evil, like, how do you not see this? So, and then after that, we just drifted apart, you know, kind of thankfully, though, because I hated going to her house. So, yeah, so that is one story, I suppose, of the paranormal activity in my childhood. I can make some more of these videos if you guys like them. Give them a thumbs up if you want me to make more. Comment, subscribe, and, yeah, let me know. And everything I'm saying is completely real. I'm not one of those people who are going to come on here and lie to you or anything like that. If I didn't have these experiences with the paranormal, I wouldn't find it fascinating, and frankly, I wouldn't find it worth time talking about, you know, like, my experiences with the paranormal are what made me have such a fascination with the paranormal, which is why I want to talk about it, you know, so if I never had these experiences, I wouldn't be talking about it. Anyway, that's it for today, guys. That's it for today, guys. So, that's it for today, guys. So remember to stay positive. I don't know. I need to think of, like, a closing to my videos. I want to be like one of those people who, like, calls her subscribers fishies, like Trish Paytas, or, you know, there's another girl that calls her subscribers something else. I forget what it is. I want to be one of those people who has cool pet names for her subscribers and, like, a cool signature saying every time they end a video. So, and every time I end a video, I go to it, I'm like, alright, guys, remember to... And, yeah, so I need to figure out a saying. Like, something cool. So, anyway, have fun, kiddos. Yeah.